Was there ever a framework for a trade for Bryce Harper by any team?
It's my understanding that it never got to that point. Now, famously on Monday night, the Nationals just looked around to see what was out there. But I reported at the time they were just seeing if they would get overwhelmed at the last minute. That certainly did not happen. So I don't think a framework was ever in place that, yes, we were going to send Harper to the Indians for a package like this, and then somebody backed out. My understanding is it never got that far.
But that's what I'm curious about, Tim, because it felt like a lot of these national insiders, including Buster Olney, they felt like this is like a foregone conclusion. This is more likely than not he was going to be dealt. But how is it that everybody thought he was going to be dealt, but we didn't know what anybody was offering to the Nationals?
Well, I didn't think he was ever going to be dealt, so I'm in a different camp there because in my research and my reporting, I never got anybody to tell me that, yeah, there's something going on here. And I think the reason people said it's going to happen is because the Nationals are in so much trouble. The guy's a free agent at the end of the year, so it makes sense to get something for him now rather than get a draft choice for him, say, in November. So I think that's why, but I never saw or heard any direct link to a team with other names involved.
What role, we're talking to Tim Kurkjian from ESPN, what role does Scott Boras play in Bryce Harper staying, or what's more important to him, that he stays where he may want to or that he becomes the highest paid player in baseball? And maybe you can have both here, but it feels like that's what you're bringing in Scott Boras. You're not getting a hometown discount, it feels.
Right. Now, he does have a great relationship, Boras does, with the Nationals and vice versa. And he has Steven Strasburg, who told Scott Boras, I want to stay here. I don't want to go out on the free agent market. And they signed him to a long-term extension for an enormous amount of money without Strasburg ever getting to free agency. I do not see that happening with Bryce Harper. I think he's going to go out there and look around. But Scott Boras will say, what do you want? And Bryce will probably say, I want to see what's out there. And that's why I think there's a really good chance he's going to leave the Nationals. But I think we still have to wait and see what happens the last couple months here before we're going to know who's interested in him and is there any chance he's going to stay in Washington.
I love asking this question. I don't know if there's a correct answer or a bad answer. But if I gave you Harper, I'm going to take Trout out of this. I gave you Mookie Betts, I gave you Harper, and I gave you Shohei Ohtani or somebody else. Now, I'm talking about young stars here. You got to give them a max contract here. Who are you going to invest in?
Well, that's a great question. I would go with Harper first, barely over Mookie Betts and barely over Manny Machado. And when I say barely, if anyone picked the other two, there would be no argument here. I still just think, Dan, there's something about this guy that is different than others. And I think his wildly competitive nature, which sometimes gets him in trouble, is still going to lead to great, great things for him. Mookie Betts' defense and his speed adds to the equation, certainly. But I still think Harper is right there with all the young players, except for Mike Trout, who's in a different category than anybody else.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.